many towns, historical, that I found in historical records, some of which survive to this day, such as Buxton, Ontario, is a surviving town that was initially settled by fugitives from slavery in this period of the Underground Railroad. Um, a lot of Ontario towns, and Quebec to a certain extent, but a lot of Ontario towns that weren't exclusively populated by refugees from slavery still exist. For example, Owen Sound was considered the northern terminus of the Underground Railroad in a period of time. Um, there's another fictionalized town in the book called Spancel Narrows that is loosely based off of Owen Sound. Um, the Queen's Bush was a community that no longer exists. That was one such community. So there were many, many, many. Windsor was a major hub along the Underground Railroad. St. Catharines, Niagara. There are many, and as much as I could, and to address the question from the audience in terms of what the research was like, as much as I could, it was a mix of things. So I usually started with I kind of curated a list of historical monographs, um, so books that historians had written that were about the themes that I was interested in. So Underground Railroad was one. War of 1812 was kind of a chapter of history that I was interested in for the book. And so I started with collecting these books that I thought were really well researched and written, and read them and looked in their bibliographies to see what type of primary source material they were drawing from, and then I kind of followed those wherever I found that to be pertinent. I know for myself, reading historical fiction has been an interesting way to engage with history, and I see it myself as part of the oral storytelling tradition, part of the in my own lineage, going back further, the griot tradition of West Africa is about storytelling, song, like using song and storytelling and poetry as ways to tell about the past. There's not necessarily a distinction between history and fiction in my lineages, and so I wanted to tap into that, and historical fiction seemed like a way to do that. Yeah, I'd say the main challenge in striking that balance is you can't. It kind of became a process of learning more than I needed to know in order to write the story that I wanted to tell. And I've heard other writers of historical fiction articulate a similar idea, and so I think it's something, it's a thing, in that you have to. It's a challenge to build a world or approximate another time period through learning about all the things. What were the material conditions of a certain group of people in a certain time period? What was the political climate? What was the ecological climate? You have to. And it's not as though I had to learn everything about that period of time, but I had to learn, more details than I needed to put in the book. And so the compulsion initially is to put all you're learning all this cool stuff about a period of time, and I wanted to put it all in there. But fiction doesn't. You don't need to overload the details with fiction. You just the challenge is in giving just enough to evoke a time period, in this case, without being too heavy-handed and overloading with unnecessary detail.